Theo's being measured for his costume by Purdy, who is the costumier. She's a retired costumier from the RSC, who now makes the costumes for the Garden Players, which is the little group of actors that do the Shakespeare scenes at the Birthplace. And he suddenly realizes that he's got to be measured for his thing. This is one of my favorites. So you got to imagine Purdy's about 90. She's in her 90s. And she's kind of like a really sweet little old lady, but she's also a little bit naughty as well, which is so wonderful. I love having older characters who don't conform to like the little old lady stereotype, who were like a little bit cheeky and a little bit naughty. So here we go. This is Theo. I'm about to leave for the day when Ophelia beckons me from the crew room door. Theo, can I trouble you for 10 more minutes of your time? Sure, I reply, checking my watch. I'm meant to be meeting Greg and his assistant producer across town after rehearsal. It'll mean a dash across Stratford to get there on time, but after everything that's happened today, I'm keen to keep Ophelia on side. I follow her down a corridor and am ushered into a tiny room, and through a door I haven't noticed before, where a tiny, bright-eyed elderly woman is waiting. She has a tape measure around her neck and bead-headed pins in regimented rainbow lines down the lapel of her knitted sleeveless cardigan. Ophelia stations me in the middle of the room, in the middle of the glorified cupboard, and steps back. Theo, meet Purdy Winterson. Here we are, Purdy, our handsome guest artiste. He's all yours. The eager smile Purdy gives me is worrying. More concerning still is the way she blows on the end of her tape measure as if she's warming them up.
Righty-ho, Mr. Larkin, she twitters. Whip your shirt off, please.
What? Purdy is our expert seamstress, Ophelia beams. She's dressed everyone for us from Sir Ian McKellen to Dame Helen Mirren, and she's not perturbed by the sight of a chest. When it's clear I'm not following, she gives a patient smile. She needs to measure you, dear, for your costume. Ah, sorry. Reddening, I remove my shirt, but it feels weird. I'm used to discarding clothing on stage, in movies and for photo shoots, but in this small enclosed space, with two ladies considerably older than me, I feel exposed. It's not helped when Purdy mutters, "Lovely chest," as she approaches with the tape measure. I've had countless costume fittings before, but they've always taken place in light, airy rooms with several other actors being fitted at once. There it's felt like fun, the ultimate game of dressing up, and the first time you really meet the character you're playing, when you feel what it's like to be surrounded by their clothes. But there are no costume assistants or flattering light or fellow actors here. Just me, a startlingly cold tape measure, and two very enthusiastic women of a certain age fussing around my naked flesh. Of course, as the summer goes on, Purdy can tweak your garments, Ophelia says, the twinkle in her eyes at the word tweak impossible to ignore. But to begin with, for the sake of expediency, she'll alter some of said shirts and a few pieces from her own collection to fit. Purdy grins up at me.
I have some lovely velvet doublets with your name all over them.
Her eyes sweep eagerly south from my chest.
Matching codpieces, too.
I look to Ophelia for help, but my panic seems to amuse her. Purdy's home is a treasure trove of RSC costume history, she informs me, a veritable Aladdin's cave of pieces.
True, true.
Purdy is circling me now, muttering measurements to herself. It's a strange incantation I only understand a few words of. Doable, darling, Ophelia asks Purdy, something in the costumer's mumbled monologue concerning her. Purdy dismisses this with a pincushion sporting hand.
Yes, yes, no shirt, altered jackets, no problem.
She works fast, Ophelia says, a naughty snort coming from her colleague as the tape measure is applied to my waist and hips in turn.
Bloody good job, too, considering how little time we have to prepare.
Sorry, I say, not really sure if an apology is needed. I hadn't even considered costumes when I gate-crashed the patrons' breakfast performance. I assumed they had spare pieces lying around, but there's barely enough space in the crew room to accommodate us three actors and the props trunk, let alone a wide selection of authentic-looking Tudor and Elizabethan garb.
Best bit now,
Purdy beams, brandishing her trusty tape measure like a soon-to-be weapon of torture.
Legs.
Sorry? I stare helplessly at Ophelia. Inside leg, she informs me, with more glee than is arguably necessary. As I stare back, Purdy taps my right thigh and drops shakily to her knees. Looking up at me like a tourist observing a particularly nervous skyscraper, she grins.
Spread 'em, sunshine.
Zed and Lucy could have warned me about this. Maybe the costume fitting with Purdy is a particular rite of passage for the garden players, or maybe they know full well the ordeal I was about to face and just chose not to inform me. That seems more likely given our not exactly easy introduction to working together. I bet they're somewhere right now sniggering about it. By the time the mortifying minutes of measuring are done and I'm given kind permission to dress again, I can't wait to get out of there. So there you go. So good, so good.